Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm going again. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, it's telling me you can hear me. Can you all hear me? Hello, hello, hello. It's telling me you can hear me there too. Somebody tell me if you can hear me. Oh, Veronica. What are we gonna do with this world of ours? I blame Trump. It's somehow Trump or Russell Vought. I don't know. Those fuckers. Somehow it's their faults because this was working at the beginning and then it just stopped working on me. It's really like I don't know. I guess I need to do a laptop, maybe the plug-in because I think the microphone is obviously fine. Did you hear anything I said where I welcomed you to the wonderful, wonderful Queen City of Cincinnati? Did you catch that part? Did you catch the part where I also told you that we're going to have a fine, if you will, broadcast today? Did you hear that? Whatever. You're hearing me now. That's what matters. I mentioned Russell Vought because we're going to be talking about him, that creepy weirdo who I'm trying to remember who had the quote. Somebody said that he had been thinking about this since puberty, which tells me that guy must have had a really, really exciting high school years. A lot like JD Vance is probably kind of spending a lot of time stuffed in a locker and having his lunch money taken away, and then just decided to hate the whole world for it. I mean, think about that for a second. He's been thinking about cutting government since puberty. Like, didn't he have a hobby? Like, didn't he watch football or baseball or listen to music or, you know? He doesn't, looking at Russell Vought, he doesn't really look like he'd be into rap. So I'm going to guess that wasn't his thing, but country music, maybe? Didn't he go to NASCAR? Um, where he just kind of sat around with quadratic equations and things and was just obsessed with numbers because they were cooler and then he understood them. He got their emotion better than he does when it comes to people. He could cuddle with numbers. He could go home and spend a fun evening with the math textbook, pre-calc, moving on to calc, when he got really, really hot. I better stop soon or YouTube may just cut me off here. But yeah, yeah, when somebody said he probably just killed animals, I'd love to see how many Republicans fit that. We know Kristi Noem shot her dog in the face. I'd be willing to bet you a whole lot of them did because that predicts sociopathy. One of the Huckabee kids, we know they're all a bunch of greasy, scummy sociopaths. I'm going to bring David Schuster in because he's just sitting there patiently. He doesn't even know that, of course, I had my issue, and again, no one could hear what the hell I was saying. David, I have a question for you. Why am I not bright?
Why are you not what?
Not that bright. Is it nature or?
Oh, we all have our challenges. We all have our technical issues. We all have things that we are just, if somebody needed to fix something around this house, my wife and my kids, they would say, don't ask Dad.
I know. I love, I love the self-deprecation. I'm having fun, but I think like Russell Vought may have done something. You know what I mean? I want to start a conspiracy theory here that Russell Vought spiked my water because he knew I was talking about him, and that somehow that led me to a deranged state where I turned off my microphone so I could not talk about him. Can we start that and you guys pass that theory out there?
Well, we're getting to this point where the MAGA control of not only the government but also high tech and all of the all the alphabet companies and everything that's coming. And so I wouldn't put it past a guy like Russell Vought to try to figure out some way that he can track people in real time to mess with them.
I wouldn't either. Also, good reminder that you just gave. This is why I'm going to remind you all again, please, blueamp.co. You have to go subscribe to our Substack. And I bring it up again because I don't remember if we talked about this in the past, but you may have seen that joining the likes of Tim Cook or Tim Apple, whatever his name is, and various other companies, Google paid off the Trump administration $25,000. They also took down the ICE app, the from Google, the app that tracks ICE's whereabouts. I warned you all about this and said, I'm not telling you, we're going to try to grow YouTube, which of course is part of Google, is part of this ridiculous monopoly. 6 of them control 90% of what we see and what we play and what we hear. But they can disappear us from here in a moment, and this is all gone. That's the thing for you folks watching on YouTube. I know we have folks from Twitter. Yeah, Elon Musk wouldn't do anything bad, so we're good there. We've got folks watching on various other platforms. Facebook, of course, I completely trust Mark Zuckerberg. Anybody who'd give himself a mask of sunscreen like that, that's got to be a Russell Vought thing. He probably did that when he was reaching puberty and thinking only about cutting the government too. He and Mark seem to have similar, let's call them charisma. But seriously, like I can only tell all of you that please keep subscribing. It's at Cliffs_Edge here on YouTube. But Substack, we own the data. There's no way we can be separated from you. I mean, there are ways. We don't want to think about them. A large asteroid heads towards us. I suppose we'll be separated. But at least we know that they can't. That we have data. We don't have anything at YouTube, and I'm going to keep criticizing YouTube and Google for kissing Trump's ass and bowing down and taking the side of a bunch of masked fascists over that of innocent human beings just trying to get by in this country. And I don't believe in shutting up about stuff like that. So we could disappear at any time from here. If they're willing to pay off Trump the way they are, if they're willing to take that app down, do you think at any point if Trump says take down all lefty voices, they won't do it? So again, everybody, and I see Lefty Gramps in there. He is a paid subscriber, which you don't have to become. You'll get good extra stuff soon.
But we should also point out there's some really good people with Blue Amp who are behind the scenes most of the time. And you see that thing right there, the Blue Amp Media logo right there.
That's right.
We have, we've got a guy who's actually knows how to do this kind of stuff. Who's Lawrence, who's helping us come across with sort of new marketing and branding and to sort of up our game. And so Blue Amp is growing. And all of you, that's thanks to everybody who's been paid subscriber and has supported us. And there's some really exciting things ahead.
We do get a lot of stuff coming, a lot of cool people, even further folks who are going to be contributing. And thanks for running. David obviously is huge. Yeah, look at that. Look at Jim. He's got you covered with some good folks here. Lawrence is who we're talking about, Winterman, who is behind the scenes with us. Veronica Tatis, who, of course, you see here in the comments. Look at that. Shout out to Lawrence. No, shout out to you too, Veronica, who honestly has been the backbone of our organization. And if she weren't organizing stuff, you guys can tell I can't even get a microphone to work. So worth taking that seriously.
I also want to point out, because sometimes people will see us or get a vibe from something sort of based on our broadcasting and whatnot, and we can't control whether people like us or don't like us, but I can guarantee to everybody we have some really great people, not just in terms of talented and skill, but we have like the most decent human beings on the planet who are part of a Blue Amp. And you know what? It's sort of rare. And I think I've worked at every news organization possible, Cliff, every broadcaster out there. Yep. There are a lot of assholes, a lot of jerks that fill up all these organizations. And I would have to say that to a person, Blue Amp has really decent, kind, dignified, humanity-focused people. And it's not just about, growing Blue Amp, and it's not just about informing our audience, and it's not just about being self-sufficient, financial, and all that kind of thing. It's about working for the greater good. And I couldn't be prouder of the family that we have and that we're growing at Blue Amp. So,
I mean, that says it all, right? Because David Schuster is I don't need to go into his resume again, although I might, but is an incredibly talented broadcaster, headlined shows and everything. And I can tell you, I've told this story often. I won't go into all the details, but there was a time where I was having to go and visit New York because my dad was hospitalized, and I'd only been friends with David for a couple of years at that point, and David was there every single time to meet me when I came in, which I can't say about everybody, and not that everybody should be expected to be there every time. But the point is that David's the guy off camera that he is on camera. Lawrence, to quote Lawrence, as I like to say, and now that's become, I think, one of our statements we will be making all the time. We are assholes for freedom. I would say we're your assholes, but we're not literally your assholes. I don't want you to think that. So don't look down. You're okay. But we're assholes for freedom in that we will fight against the bad people, and we'll be assholes while we're doing it. As if you read my pieces at Substack or hear me here, I call them all sorts of names because they have attacked my democracy. And as far as I'm concerned, my family, whether it's my family here at Blue Amp, whether it's my personal actual family, whether they're attacking all of us by taking away our rights and our freedoms and attacking our democracy and our economy, and they're doing all of that. They're hurting people. So I don't know how people can treat them with respect. I can't, and I'm not going to try to. And so I'm an asshole, but I'm an asshole for freedom.
And we're gonna have to play off of that. I can't remember if it was like a Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin quote, something along the lines of "the clash of ideas is the sound of liberty." Well, we're going to change that slightly and say the farting on Trump are the assholes for freedom.
And see, I mean, this guy was an MSNBC and CNN anchor. We got him making fart jokes on here. So, I mean, really, what more in life do you want? I know what you want. You want us to get Wayne Besson out here.
Yes.
Has the deets, if you will, on Project 2025. And it's actually kind of scary. They are 50% of the way to where they wanted to be already. And you've probably noticed some of that stuff when you see like delays when flight, when our flights aren't taking off in numerous airports because we've got nobody working there. I went through that a little while back. We got stuck in JFK, and then they sent us over to LaGuardia and then back to JFK. There's nobody available because government doesn't matter, guys. We should all go back to the Little House on the Prairie times. Obviously, the bureaucratic state and all that stuff we built up after FDR has done nothing good. You wouldn't want people that are experts in land management or, the environment or people's health. You want the crazy fucking guy with a large whale fin on his car and driving around with a dead, a cub in his car to dump in Central Park after he's done his 16 years of heroin and his steroids. That's the guy that should be telling us what's good for our health. Right. All right. And with that, Wayne Besson, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, Wayne, good to be on with you. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Thank you for being here. Marlon Weems is already who we've had on before. I need that on a t-shirt. Well, Marlon.
Marlon's going to get the first one, I promise. And Marlon, we're already working on this.
I mean, I just sort of came up with it and said it one time, and I think we all are like, assholes for freedom. I'm not giving myself credit because I'd say 9 out of every 10 things I say, maybe 9.7, are really dumb. But that one, that one's going to stick. So we're gonna have that. In any case, let's get back to Wayne here. We need Wayne to tell us what has already been done, because the problem is that there's the bigger ticket items that people talked about, but there's so much hidden, in the print, because Project 2025. I mean, obviously, if Russell Vaught had been working on this since puberty, he had a lot of time to think these concepts over, when others would have been thinking of, well, I don't know, maybe, hooking up with somebody or playing a sport or, having a life. Not Russell Vaught. He wanted to just ruin all of ours. So I'm not sure where we should start with this, Russell. Where do you think, Russell? Sorry, where do you think we should start with this, Wayne? Where do you think we should start with it?
Well, the reason I did this is because, as bad as Project 2025 is in those 922 pages, if you look at the organizations behind it, it's much worse. Project 2025 is actually sanitized. What they really want in terms of their vision for this country and the world is within the organizations. And there's 114 of them that are on the advisory board. And it's an incredibly dystopian vision. And I want people to know what kind of world we're going to live in. And the choice is very simple. We can either be citizens of the United States or we can be subjects under a Project 2025 agenda. And I want people to fully, including conservatives, to know what this world is going to look like, because I don't think people truly understand the extent of the fanaticism and the zealotry that we see with these organizations that have signed up for Project 2025.
And Wayne, at the fundamental heart of it, it seems like, is in order to save the village, you have to burn it down. Seems to be the operating theory for all of these organizations and for 2025 at large.
Well, there are three different power centers, as I call them. The first one is Donald Trump, who's his own orbit. He's the cult leader who can summon the mob at any moment.
And he's large enough to think objects do orbit him. So we
yes,
should be clear. Sorry,
and growing every day. And the second one is the Peter Thiel, Silicon Valley, that JD Vance is also part of. And they don't believe in democracy. They think they're the biggest geniuses that ever lived, and all of us are a bunch of idiots, and that they know better than everybody. So they don't believe in democracy. They believe they should be in charge. And the third center of power is Project 2025 and Russell Vaught, you were just mentioning. And all these organizations.
Can I ask you quickly? Because
Yeah.
I think you and I talked on the phone before this too. I always sort of threw in as a fourth one, and they're interrelated, and they cross the streams, if you will, which I learned from Ghostbusters was bad, but could destroy the universe. So that kind of works here. But there's the Opus Dei faction, and that includes, what's his name? When Senator Brownback, he was an Opus Dei adherent, and when he went back and being governor of Kansas, he literally destroyed the place. Defunded all the schools, he killed their credit rating, all of that.
Right.
And our Supreme Court has something like 5. Is every Republican on there an Opus Dei? Either 5 or 6 of them are, which is an extreme form of Catholicism. It doesn't accept, that when the church, I think it was in the 60s, reformed. So they still want to stone people for being gay, and still think people like me and David killed Jesus, though I have a whole lot of different alibis for where I was at the time. But in any case, they're nuts, and we've seen it. So so to you, do you not include that sort of religious faction in there, or do you think it's just part of the other ones?
Well, that's Project 2025. It's distinctly religious. These are a mix of Opus Dei Catholics and fundamentalist Christians, evangelicals.
Gotcha.
So I lump them into more Project 2025, but they also cross over into the Red Caesar, Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, JD Vance world. So that they're in both. They have a foot in both worlds. But what all three, and if you want to count that as 4, have in common is that they don't believe in democracy. They also have very unpopular agendas, and they can't achieve power if people vote with democracy. And Trump has been, in that sense, their Trojan horse,
Right.
because he is, he's an entertainer. He's a comedian. He has his little dance he does. And as a result of it, they latched onto him. There was one poll, an NBC poll, that the Project 2025 agenda only had 4% support. Donald Trump doesn't run away from much in this world. He stands by everything. What was the one thing he did run away from?
Project he kept saying he didn't know what it was, and all of that stuff, right?
But recently, they've come out of the closet, so to speak, with that. You had several different incidents. One was Jimmy Kimmel. You had, and that really grabbed people's attention of how these people don't want anyone to speak unless they approve it first.
So
they say they want free speech, but they don't.
That says, just so everybody understands, is there a section where they say, is it a sort of anti-free speech in general, or is it about targeting platformed liberal leftists, whatever you want to call them, non-right-wing voices like comedians, journalists, that kind of thing?
Well, everything. I mean, they want to label people who don't agree with them as a threat, whether it's a terrorist threat or someone who's un-American. We see how they're going about this and mislabeling everything from people as terrorists to cities as under siege when they're not. I think one thing they all have in common is they are truth challenged. They have never met a lie they haven't embraced. I think that is some of the glue that binds them together.
Well, you pointed out they can't win with the truth, right? So
they can't. And so all these unpopular agendas went into the Donald Trump Trojan horse. And what we're going to see right now, I think at some point they may throw him aside if he becomes unpopular, and they used him to get in power, but that's a whole nother story. But I think that, we talk about what America saw a glimpse of Project 2025 with Jimmy Kimmel. It was Brendan Carr, who runs the FCC. He wrote a chapter for Project 2025, and he's the one who apparently thinks that comedians have to be approved by the government. If he doesn't like their jokes, apparently they're not funny and he can get rid of them. But who promoted that story was the Media Research Center, which is also
David has to know them. They've attacked me. If they've wasted their time attacking me as somebody who just was a guest on certain shows in the past, like once or twice, I'm sure there's a library of their attacks on David, probably.
Well, they're part of Project 2025 as well. So this was basically you had an official that wrote a chapter in Project 2025. Brendan Carr went on a podcast and made it clear that Kimmel needs to go. And the story was pushed out by another Project 2025 group. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Russell Vought is a key player behind the government shutdown. But I think people need to be really concerned, because what we have looked at so far is the purge of experts and getting rid of government workers. But what we really need to be concerned about is the surge. They have a database of Project 2025, and they've been collecting resumes. And their motto is personnel as policy. So they just don't want to get rid of these people. That's nonsense. Oh, we want to save money and get rid of these people. No, they want to. There's the purge of those people. But then what's worse is the surge of these extremists, these zealots that are going to be in government. So instead of, you go to let's just say you're the post office or an air traffic controller, whatever it may be, they're not asking questions about their expertise. They're asking, well, how do you feel about abortion? It's insane.
But that was when I first heard about Project 2025, it was, I think, Steve Bannon talking about it on his podcast, I think before he went to jail. But in any case, he was talking about how the idea was not only that we're going to get rid of hundreds of thousands of government workers, but to the extent that those were going to be replaced, they would be replaced by hundreds of thousands of true believers who would then put in the conservative philosophy at every layer, every level of government. And related to that, I question about the news. We've seen the Pentagon trying to restrict reporters' access to the halls of the Pentagon and saying everything has to be pre-approved before it can be published or broadcast. Is there a chapter on Project 2025 about that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, there's a chapter on every single thing imaginable, and the 114 organizations that are on the advisory board. It's quite thorough. They represent everything from abortion to the media to judicial organizations to you have African-American organizations against civil rights. You have a lot of groups that are extraordinarily anti-LGBTQ. In fact, that is one thread that runs through all of these groups, whether they're business groups or media groups, whatever. They're all incredibly anti-LGBTQ. And I would say that the LGBT community must fight like hell, because there's no place in this world if they if they win full power. But I also think, we mentioned the surge of these fanatics that they're putting in place in all levels of government. There's another reason for that, and that is if that they stage a coup, because that's what they want, is total. They want to be completely in charge. They want people obeying throughout the entire government, and it's particularly concerning in the military. And we see, how they've tried to purge the military of qualified generals and put in place apparatchiks that could possibly lose us a war. I mean, we have this Circus Act with Pete Hegseth when he was over there. We need a military culture. This third-rate, failed military guy lecturing generals who are setting military policy, the absurdity of it. But that's what we're looking at right now.
But he was a backup weekend host on Fox and Friends, so that's important to note.
Well, that is important because that wins wars. The
Fox sure does.
What is the worst case scenario as you see it? I mean, there's some suggestions that if we were to face another 9/11, we don't have the proper people in counterintelligence to detect it. That if there's some sort of catastrophe with air traffic control, we're in trouble there. That if there's another pandemic, we don't have experts who can track that ahead of time. What do you see as being the absolute worst scenario given this surge of true believers and fanatics who are not experts in the agencies that they're assigned to work?
Well, I think that might be their downfall, because you can only cheat reality for so long. You can't get rid of people of the National Weather Service and hurricanes are coming and they're not predicting it. You can't. Now, there are certain things that you can't lie about, and you can't put in unqualified people. I think we have Hegseth flexing his muscles as he's blowing up speedboats with alleged drug dealers off the coast of Venezuela. Oh, okay, great. We have him invading Chicago. Yeah, real tough guy. But as he's doing that, China is advancing at a rapid pace with everything from drones to chips to their Navy is outpacing us. We may very well lose a war with these people as they're sitting there preening and muscle flexing and play acting and cosplaying Patton. Well, what happens when a real war comes, or with Russia? I mean, they're literally, we could be defeating Russia right now with just a little help, the way it's going. But we're not doing anything, and NATO's under threat because of our Department of War. So I think that's actually a very big weakness and what may actually bring them down. But what concerns me is, as I mentioned, is that they're putting their main goal, all of these organizations, whether it's the people in Silicon Valley who think that they're better than everybody and should rule, or the religious fanatics, or Trump, who believes he should be a dictator, is that once they, when January 6th came, there were a lot of people who didn't comply. When he tried to steal the election with a big lie, a lot of people said no. Brad Raffensperger. Right. Now, what happens now? He's put all these people in place who only know how to say yes. We saw another example of this. We saw Linda McMahon. She put together a new civics education. Well, she put Project 2025 organizations that supported the big lie to teach our children civics. What the hell? The people that tried to overthrow democracy are now teaching civics to our kids. So that's what I think is really happening, that they're putting these people in place to create a false narrative to allow them, from whether it be martial law or some other means, to take over the government, claiming the election was stolen, for example. There's a lot of different ways they may go about this. But when they do, this time they have a bunch of yes men and women in place, and not people who are going to protect the Constitution. And that is my biggest fear. Project 2025 is very similar to the Seven Mountains mandate with the fundamentalist Christians.
Yeah.
Where they want to take over seven, and a lot of these people are the same people, or are very well tied to them, and they want to take over all sectors of society. That's what people need to understand. We hear a lot about fascism, and very much looks like fascism, but I think it may look more like totalitarianism, especially with the technology these days to monitor. And so they want to control every aspect of society and pit themselves against who they perceive as enemies, and reward their friends and punish all of their enemies. I think that is the direction that we need to fear right now, where we might be going. And it's happening a lot quicker than people realize. Or maybe they do realize it, but they're just not sure what to do about it, because we haven't really seen anything quite like this before. January 6th was a good preview of the way these people think and where they believe they should be in full control, and they only have the right to govern. Nobody else does.
It's more though the attacks on,
Mhm.
January 6th is terrible, and it is terrible, obviously, but it's something you can see and feel. The danger I feel like is the little things they're doing that we can't see and feel behind the scenes, ways they're changing laws and ways that they're, whatever the loopholes they're finding that they don't even need everybody for. Obviously, they're abusing plenty of laws, executive orders, and all of that
Mhm.
too. I will say though, and I think you're right. I'm not disputing your point that who's there's a lot more loyal people in
Mm.
government. He's fired a lot more people this time, but I was heartened that in both of these cases where he's gone after Comey and Letitia James, both of the prosecutors said no, and he had to fire them and put
Mhm.
other folks in. My hope is still we've got more of those that are there that are waiting for the right moment or whatever it might be, because clear, at least in people I spoke to, a few veterans and others, and stuff that I've read after that Pete Hegseth meeting, there were apparently a lot of those flag officers who walked out and were sort of the mind of, okay, what he's asking is stupid, but where it's legal, I'll do it, but I'm
Mhm.
not following an illegal order for that guy.
Well, let's
Um,
hope. Let's hope. But what scares me is if you keep firing these people, and we're only in year one. Well, if you keep getting rid of these people, at what point are there none left, or very
You're right.
few left? And that is when we have to be very concerned. Um, and also, I mean, a lot of the other things they're doing. The view I mentioned LGBTQ people, but I think women should be terrified, not only with abortion, because they want to get rid of the abortion pill, for example, but they don't believe women should have a role in leadership. They don't believe women should be in the workplace. There was one guy, Scott Yanor from the Claremont Institute, that said schools should not recruit women for things like engineering or law, or to become engineers or doctors.
So they're the Taliban, basically, is what you're saying.
It is. It's a Taliban or a Christian version of Iran is what they are. What they want. Women are second-class citizens in their view. And there's also, there's this thread of white supremacy that runs through it as well. And I'm not just talking about the soft, I'm against DEI. I'm talking about with links, for example, the Bull Moose Project to those who are Holocaust denying white supremacists. There's a link that runs through there with these organizations of Project 2025. There's also people don't realize that, they talk about the Great Replacement, this insane conspiracy theory where Jews are trying to pay for the trafficking immigrants so they can vote for Democrats, basically, is what they believe. It's insane. But there is a great replacement. It's their great replacement. They want to get rid of immigrants, and then they want to legalize child labor to fill these hard labor jobs. And they're trying to do it under parental rights, saying, well, a parent should be able to put their kid to work. Well, there's a lot of bad parents. What if your parent is the town drunk and they send their kid to work to pay for their lifestyle, drinking and passing out all day? I think those are the kind of world that they want to create with Project 2025.
And it is a world that has, I'd say it is a world that is filled with buffoonery and incompetence. And while that may be helpful to us when it comes to, I don't know, say a prosecutor who has no experience who goes into court and gets things wrong, and the Comey indictment and the courts can sort of slap back. The fear that I hear you expressing is, well, never mind where there are judges and places that can actually correct the incompetence. What do we do when the incompetence affects our response to a pandemic or to a military conflict?
And we've seen it already, right, David? I mean, COVID, we know
Right.
400,000 excess people died doing, a Lancet Foundation study, other studies, because of what they did with their anti-vaxxing and anti-masking and all of that. And I mean, it'll be worse.
And you mentioned RF Quack getting rid of all the vaccine experts.
Right.
Well, what happens if there's another pandemic? It's terrifying. Another example, Donald Trump didn't like the statistics in labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So he fires the person who. What happens to the economy when we start cooking the books? They try to get put someone from Project 2025 in the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but but what happens for the first time the books are cooked and the world knows? What happens to foreign investment at that point? What happens to domestic investment?
Already,
that alone could
right?
crash the economy.
Sure. I mean, already
nobody will
look at
trust
everything.
us.
I mean, we're already seeing it, right? I mean, we've already had, is it 2 months in a row of losing jobs at this point? I mean, people are reacting to this. If you have a business and you don't know Taco Trump, right? If you don't know if he's going to slap tariffs on tomorrow and then take them away, or I mean, he's untrustworthy on that. If he's deported your labor force, if he's, if he has, fired enough government workers, you can't get any expertise to help you out, and those folks lose their purchasing power too. I mean, farmers and hotels and places going out of business. I mean, this is all this is all, and they said it, right. Elon Musk came out and said, well, there'll have to be some pain first.
Right.
That was
Well,
very nice
it's
to
amazing to
warn
me
us.
that it's amazing to me that they're so willing for people who claim to care about the common man and they care about the worker, but they discard workers like Trump used to in New York. They couldn't care less
Of course.
about workers. They are pawns for them. I mean, look what they're doing. They're giving all this money to Argentina to save the chainsaw wielding tyrant, and yet
whose policies they're following. He got there ahead of them with these idiotic policies, so their economy's screwed, and we're headed in that direction.
Well, but the weird part is our farmers are suffering with soybeans because of the war with China, and yet Argentina is the one now selling them the soybeans. So we're subsidizing that as our farmers suffer. These are the kind of policies that are
somebody's
are
being
nuts.
paid off. When you see that stuff, you just know
Yes.
that. And I can't say who because I don't have any proof, but I think we can all figure it out. Who puts themselves and their family ahead of the country, so that if all I have to do is give $20 billion of Americans' tax money to Argentina and let the soybean market go there, and I get paid X by by Argentina behind the scenes for that, or somebody. I don't know. Go
Yeah,
ahead, David.
or we get a plane from Qatar and then we put a military base in Idaho.
Idaho,
I mean,
right.
Well, the optimistic solution, I mean, and again, truly being an optimist in all this in terms of the antidote is that, okay, Democrats win the midterms. There's some oversight in Congress and some more transparency and an ability to focus Congress more and to shed more light on this through congressional oversight. And then the Democrats win a 2028 presidential election. How much preparation, though, in terms of a Democratic Project 2029 is going to be needed to unwind and fix and rehabilitate so many different levels of the U.S. government that have been infected by Project 2025?
We're going to have to completely not just rebuild, but make better the institutions that were torn down. But I would caution, are we going to have elections? Are there going to be midterms? Are they going to cheat? I think we have to start preparing on two tracks. We have the normal track that we've been going on with elections coming up, and we prepare as if it's going to be normal, but we also have to create a mass movement. David Brooks, the conservative columnist at the New York Times, had an excellent piece on why we need a mass movement now.
Wow, David Brooks getting all populist.
David Brooks, David Brooks in The Atlantic wrote a really good piece about, and he went through all the different countries that had mass movements. He pointed, for example, the Philippines, so they got rid of Marcos, and we need mass protests right now.
Well, we have no
this
kings
is not
coming up
okay.
in 3 days, everybody. So get out.
At No Kings, and also from the sponsors, No Kings Refuse Fascism. We are co-sponsoring, or we're signed on as a sponsor. On November 5th in Washington, D.C., they're putting together a mass rally to get people to demand, that Trump go. And is he going to go tomorrow? No, but that's how you get it started. And to say this isn't normal, this is destroying our country. We have to stand up. We want to be citizens of the United States, not subjects of Donald Trump. And so we're working on that on November 5th with Refuse Fascism to get as many people to Washington, D.C., 11 a.m. in front of the Washington Monument to speak out against these horrible things that are happening in our country right now that are really degrading our democracy.
And Wayne, would you acknowledge that even if there are elections, even if the Democrats do take control back in 2028, that unwinding and reversing so many of the seeds that Donald Trump and MAGA have planted through 2025, that's going to take years?
Yes, and we've seen that in Poland. They had an authoritarian movement in Poland, Law and Justice, and even now, and it's now that they've been replaced. But they have all these judicial appointments in place blocking everything. So we are in deep trouble because of that. It's going to take a long time. It's much easier to break something than to glue it back together. And I think this country is looking like Humpty Dumpty, and we're going to have to be taping this thing together for a long time before we get back on track. But the only way around this is that they're so incompetent, and all these apparatchiks are so bad at their jobs that it becomes noticeable to anybody that isn't 10 feet in the tank for MAGA.
Right. I mean, this has almost become like a genre of our Substack, which is David writes a piece because one of them does something so remarkably stupid, inane, whatever. I mean, it's Pam Bondi, it's Kash Patel, it's, Christy Nome, it's Pete Hegseth. I mean, that is at least partially been a hope. And I think, and Donald Trump himself, of course, is the capo di
Right.
capo of idiocy. I mean, they've been, it's helped us to a certain degree how incompetent they've been so far.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we look back and it goes back to in some way, George W. Bush. We want someone to drink a beer with. We want someone like me. And then this is much worse now with Trump. And, well, I don't want somebody like me as person. I want the smartest damn person in the country running it who's going to make decisions on nuclear war. But they have this idea, well, the elites are screwing us. And so we need, people like Christy. So they have a bunch of, they have a bunch of village idiots, for lack of a better term, running this country right now. And it's humiliating and it's embarrassing. Every time Trump meets with a foreign leader, you have to go, but the models for this country that they really want, they've made it very clear. It's both Russia and Hungary. The
That's
right
what I was
is
going to say before when you brought up the elections is Hungary,
Yeah.
especially. That's why I think there will be elections. That's not my concern. Is more they're so tilted in their favor because Hungary keeps the appearance of what is it called, competitive authoritarianism, and so that's more my concern is that we ensure that our people can actually vote. Those votes can be counted because I think they're going to try to keep the appearance of elections so that they, because they're worried there would be a mass movement against them otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with you. They will keep the appearance. But I mean, even Vladimir Putin goes through the motions. So,
Right.
And nobody believes that he's getting 80, 90% of the vote. But so I think that's the direction that they'll try to take. But it's possible that they will so embarrass our country by then and do so much damage, especially if they crash the economy, that they might lose anyway and they can't stop it. I hope that is what happens. Of course, that's kind of sad because that will mean that they really did great damage to the country. But I think it's inevitable if you look at their
I was
policy.
going to say, I don't even think that's wanting it or not wanting it.
No,
We had on, and he was in the comments a little while ago, Marlon Williams, who's an economics expert, a week ago, and we were talking with Marlon about it. And I mean, if you're sitting here and you wanted to sabotage a economy that was working well, you would do everything that Trump's done. Mm-hmm. He's done everything to cause inflation, while at the same time cause the dollar to crash, while at the same time causing a labor shortage, while causing, like all these things he's doing at the same time are all meant to, it seems to me, to destroy the economy. And then you brought up Russia, then the billionaires get to grab the parts. When everything's cheaper, they get to grab it, whole industries and whatever. And I have to believe that's some of this.
I do too. I think every action that Donald Trump and his minions take is for the private greed rather than the public good. Yeah. It's not a thing they do for the American people. It's all to stuff their pockets and gain greater political control.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just remember what, what's his name? John Kelly, right? His chief of staff said. I mean, that's always the line that sort of perfectly encapsulates Trump. I called him Trunk. That's pretty cool. Trump, when he was walking with him in the in the military graveyard, and of course, right away he's like, I don't get it. What was in it for them? That is Donald Trump. He called them suckers and losers too, which of course is Donald Trump also. But the I don't get it. What's in it for them tells you everything. Because in Trump's mind, he doesn't understand why would anybody do anything for somebody else. I don't get it. You only would do something that helps you. And so I think that is clearly, I mean, we don't have to guess, on some of the stuff. It's right there. The corruption and the obvious kowtowing to foreign leaders and certain domestic interests. I do think it's gotten worse, obviously, as you said, firing people, but we've had some, for people to have hope. We've had victories along the way. We've certainly had a number of judicial victories that honestly, I've been surprised by. Some of them were Trump appointees, certainly Bush appointees, people that were saying, no, this is too insane even for us. We've had some in elections that have been held. We have outperformed what the numbers say we should do by anywhere from about 8 to about 20 something points. We do finally I'm just going to say my opinion on this, and people here know it, which is I think our House and Senate leaders have failed us and are weak and should be replaced. But now we got a bunch of people that are just not really, it seems, listening to them anymore, are going beyond them and speaking out and messaging and doing what we should be doing. Particularly, we have this sort of cast of U.S. Senate candidates, from Planton there from Maine. I know Janet, what's her face, just got in, but the oyster farmer from Maine. We've got there's one from Iowa who is fantastic. We had that school, the one that took on the right wing school board member running in Florida. We've got we do have people that are not from your usual kind of billionaires club or millionaires club running on the Democratic side. That I think Dan Osborne's running again in Nebraska as an independent, but okay, still. I mean, he's a working guy. There's a working guy. It's annoying me because there's a few others that I'm forgetting here, even though the establishment kind of supports him because they know he's our only chance. Sherrod Brown, who always sticks up for working folks. We've got some good people running. I know I was thinking of McMorrow in Michigan, who I think is outstanding. So we do have we have some people that have said flat out, I'm not going to support Chuck Schumer, or I'm not going to. And I think to me that you want to win, that's the way you get there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we've seen incredible weakness from Schumer. The messaging is as milquetoast as you can get, and I don't think it's very persuasive. I don't think it's delivered with enough passion. It looks like it was crafted in a Washington laboratory.
I'm sure it was.
And not only that, but I mean, it's like he skipped his message delivery session beforehand to make it at least palatable. So I think that we need leadership that is able to talk to the American people and be persuasive with both intelligence and passion that people identify with. And we have failed there. And we have to do better. And you mentioned some new voices that are coming out right now or speaking in a way that people can identify with. And that's how we have to defeat them. I think it's important for people, and it's very difficult, to remain optimistic and fight. We can, and the reason is this: having spent day and night researching what the alternative is, this is a world we do not want to live in.
Right.
This is a horrible life of oppression, of poverty, of misery. And that is why we have to remain vigilant, optimistic, stand up and say, hell no, the power of no. We will not go there, and we are going to be victorious because there is no other option. And if I can feel that way after spending my days and nights reading about these hideous organizations that want to disfigure our democracy and want to create a Christian version of Iran, well, then anybody else can remain optimistic and stand up and fight too. But that is it. We have to fight to get in the game, and we have to have people to speak out like this show right now. I mean, telling the people. Yeah.
I was going to say regarding the fight, and one more question for me here before I have to jump, and that is regarding the fight. Would you agree that the fight is not just against Donald Trump? Because let's suppose the Almighty says, okay, Donald, it's your time, and he's gone.
He's got those purple blotches. If we're being honest, he's not looking great. So
right. And would you agree that J.D. Vance is as much a proponent of Project 2025 and what the MAGA administration is doing as Donald Trump?
I think J.D. Vance is much more into Project 2025. I think Donald Trump is about Donald Trump. He's his own orbit. What makes Donald Trump particularly scary, he's the cult leader who can summon the mob. More than anybody else. They listen to J.D. Vance. Doesn't have that power. But what he does have is he has these connections to Project 2025 and also the Silicon Valley groups. Yeah. And he is different than I thought originally. I thought he was like a Lindsey Graham or a Marco Rubio, somebody with a soul, like a credit card, that just wanted a better title on his business card and would do anything for it. But the more I researched, J.D. Vance is so steeped in Project 2025 and these ideologues that he is scary in his own way. But I don't know he'll have the cult. I don't know if he can rise to the cult leader status and summon the mob like Trump. But I do think, in terms of crafting policy that can be more harmful, I think he will work with these organizations to create the kind of world they want, maybe more effectively than Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't see anybody who has that showman's ability.
Yeah.
Like when I really analyze all of them, if you were to analyze it, I mean, again, it's a conservative form of charisma. I don't understand it. I find Trump repulsive, but it works for them. It's sort of like but if I compare people on the left, it's sort of like I would say Obama and Clinton had a lot of charisma. Joe Biden came off as a really likable, just nice guy. And that's the way I look at someone. Like, the only one I worry about, he's not a showman and he's not whatever, but the only one of them who comes off as likable that I can think of is John Thune, who concerns me because he doesn't sort of insult people or, these other clowns. I mean, they're lacking. They come off as quite frankly assholes and lacking any charisma. I mean, JD Vance, Elon Musk, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton. Does anybody see, any one of those? Ron DeSantis, we already saw what that looked like. I'm not worried about them in the sense of being able to hold MAGA together. And I don't think Thune would even try. So, I mean, there are things, I think there's one track is the election track, but as we were saying, the other track is popular movement. We need, 3 to 3.5% of us need to be standing up. And, some numbers said we got pretty close to that or we're around that last time. Well, we need that again.
And I got to unfortunately stand up and go deal with kids issues. So Wayne, I'm just going to say thanks so much for being on the program. Pleasure to talk to you. Continued success and good luck with everything you're doing. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and I love the show. And it's great being on today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for being here, David. And just
thank you, guys.
Yep, thanks, David. Just another minute or two. We'll have to sum this up, but if you can, just promote the stuff that you've got. Again, let people know where they can find both this document, what you've written up, where they talk about the rally on November 5th. Let's get everybody everything they need here.
Sure. If you want to learn more about our organization, truthwinsout.org. That's truthwinsout.org. And on the front page and also in resources, you could find our Behind the Mask publication, and it will tell you all you need to know about the 60 of the 114 Project 2025 organizations, because it's volume 1. We're working on volume 2. Yes, it's going to a lot of research coming. And also, we are fighting.
It's like
back
War and Peace, but like garbage. It's like a garbage version of War and Peace.
Yeah, well, they have a war. They have a war department, so it's they're ready for that. Also, we're on November 5th. I'm coming to Washington to join with Refuse Fascism to try to get as many people as possible to protest the Trump administration and the horrors of what's going on across this country right now. And I hope everyone here will join us and come to D.C. 11 a.m. in front of the Washington Monument. You won't want to miss it. That
sounds really important. And especially we got the No Kings thing coming up on Saturday. We followed up with that, or maybe there's even something else in between. We'll get an idea, I think, about some of these elections, because we have 2 fantastic candidates in the 2 governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey that lean Democratic. And if somehow we don't win those races, that to me is a bright red light that they're doing something. So there's a lot of possibilities for showing our strength there, showing our strength with this government shutdown, showing our strength, when it comes to these elections. As I said before, some of the candidates for next year are people that have these strong voices, and we just stand up for them, especially if Schumer tries to undermine them in primaries, which I bet he will. But we've also got, people that are already there. I mean, Jasmine Crockett isn't sitting there and taking her cues from Jeffries. Chris Murphy isn't sitting there and taking his cues from Chuck Schumer. These are people that are speaking out and saying things, pointing out that really what you're saying about Project 2025 is distilling it to its essence, which is, a group of corrupt and insane billionaires have taken over our democracy and our economy. And this isn't an either or thing, right?
Yeah.
And religious, without democracy, anything from you can be stolen.
Yeah. And religious fanatics.
Yes.
Yeah. They want a theocracy, and they're working with the billion.
And they want all the stuff. They want all the stuff you have. They want. That's why they're cutting your health care. That's why they're cutting, your SNAP, because they need more stuff, apparently.
Well, they have this idea that God anointed them. They're successful because God blessed them. And if you're not very wealthy, it's because God rejected you and he doesn't love you enough, and he loves them more. And so they have a right to rule. That is what their belief system is. But I think it's important to remember they want to make us think that they are strong and they can't be defeated. But these are bullies, and bullies are weak. And these particular bullies, and these particular bullies are weak and dumb. I mean, just listen to them for 5 minutes. And we have to stand up to these bullies because, as every school kid knows, in the schoolyard, you have to punch the bully in the nose. And everybody trying to make deals with them, the media companies and the law firms and these universities who have sold out this country.
Hell,
and will
this channel, we
be-
brought it up when we went on it. Google paid them off.
yeah, it's to me, that's one of the biggest surprises, how easily some of these people who in power fell and capitulated
It's
and tried to
pathetic is what
appease.
it is.
It's pathetic. It's a disgrace. And they, by selling out this country, what they did, instead of standing up to the bully, they empowered the bully. And what they are learning, though, is that bullies don't back down. They just want more and more and more. They keep taking and taking and taking till there's nothing left. And so I'm hoping at some point maybe they'll realize that appeasement is a mistake.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
It's not like
I
we've ever
don't-
seen that in history before, right? So I don't know where they
Right.
could get that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of violence, of war, and we're not talking about violence here. I'm just talking about in the greater sense of international war or whatever. But in this case, I obviously was referring to Neville Chamberlain. That was a terrible mistake. But when people that don't follow the rules, that break things, keep not following the rules and breaking things by saying I'll make a deal with you, doesn't make them want to stop breaking things and breaking the rules and doing that. What makes them want to stop, as you just said, is when you punch them in the mouth. And in the end, I'm not, to be very clear, not saying we do that physically. 3.5% of our population, whatever that, 15, 20 million people showing up for No King's Day and for your November 5th day, that's punching a bully in the mouth. Standing up, and making it clear to people and communicating every day when they're passing horrific legislation, when they're saying horrific things, that's punching a bully in the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that elections are fair and free and we elect the people that the public wants. That, I mean, these are the ways, and there's more. We've talked about more, we've written about more, but those are the ways you punch a bully in the mouth. Here.
And I say the power of no. They want you to say yes. They want you to bend at the knee and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Whether it's a politician, whether it's in Chicago, J.B. Pritzker saying, we don't want you here, or
he's been really
Gavin
great.
Newsom. Yeah, or Newsom in California, standing up and saying and trolling them and making people laugh at them, because that's one thing bullies hate more than anything.
Yes, well, that's why this channel, we believe a lot in mockery and satire, and we make fun of them, and because they it takes away their whole image of strength. And I try to communicate that to Democrats, to people who don't seem to get it, that there are times for righteous anger when they do something horrific. They grab, when ICE grabs a kid, I do scream and yell about it. But there are other times when you just sit there and mock them and make sure they know that their image of themselves and what they're seeing in the mirror is not what the rest of us are.
Yeah, they see Mussolini, we see buffoons.
Correct.
I mean, and I think humor is very, very important, and that's why they went after Jimmy Kimmel. That's why Donald Trump so hates comedians, because he stands up like this, like a dictator, and they laugh at him, they mock him, and he has a psychic collapse when that happens.
Yes.
He cannot handle that, and so we have to keep doing that at every moment imaginable. That's how you're eventually going to win and beat these people.
All right. Well, look, thank you for being here, Wayne. Again, Wayne Bessonnet, go to Truth Wins Out. Is it truthwinsout.org?
Truthwinsout.org, yes.
Go there, and he'll, I'm sure, have more on Project 2025, on the rally against the fascists on November 5th, and everything else. And he's obviously working his butt off and doing a lot of stuff. And I'm sure he's getting paid a lot by Goldman Sachs. I'm just kidding. That's the whole thing, is we're all doing this stuff because we care about democracy. We're not doing this stuff because people are putting big paychecks in it. We're not Benny Johnson, getting paid by right wingers. No, is that in rubles? Oh, okay. That's not us. So thank you, Wayne, for what you're doing. And you've got my email. You're going to need to remind us right before your November 5th rally, and then we will make sure to publicize it here and everywhere else.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for being here. Take care.
You too.
All righty, folks. A couple more minutes, I think, and then we're going to call this Wednesday. We're just going to call it a day. What else is going on out there? What are we hearing from people? I saw in there earlier Lefty Gramps. I'm not sure if he's still around. One of our subscribers, here, YouTube on the big Substack machine, and he brought up something that Reagan started all this, and I just feel it's important to say that I say all the time. Yes, he did. It didn't get to its most extreme point, its craziest point, until later on. Newt Gingrich, a buffoon, kind of took what Reagan did and ran with it. And I honestly believe that 1992 convention speech by Pat Buchanan was a huge moment too, when he declared religious war and all that. But Lefty Gramps is still here. But Reagan, without, saying no, stock buybacks are not stock manipulation, and getting rid of that law in 1982, getting rid of the fairness doctrine. I mean, a lot of ways they looked at monopolies as their salvation. And as you know, monopolies are a huge corporate power that don't care about their consumers, that don't care about their workers, that don't care about the environment, that don't care about anything, because they control everything. They have no competition, or little competition by definition. I always quote the Louis Brandeis, former Supreme Court justice, a while back, who said you can either have great disparities of wealth or you can have democracy. You can't have both. When you've got these people with hundreds of billions of dollars, and you've got companies, multinational corporations with no sort of loyalty to the United States at all, with all sorts of executives, pay based on stock options and stock going up, and they run whatever industry they're in, or they're one of 5 or 6 that do. That's when we've gotten to a point of absurdity. Teddy Roosevelt had a lot to say about this too, that it was actually, in favor of democracy and against, if you wanted to protect capitalism, you would break up, they called them trusts. You would break every damn trust into about 1,000 pieces. That is how you protect capitalism. Regulated social democracy. It works. Try Western Europe. And Reagan set us on that path because he changed the culture. 1930s to 1980s, we had some terrible things happen, obviously, to women, to African Americans, to many others. But we were headed in the right direction. And economically, we were a lot like Europe. The middle class was protected. We created the strongest middle class in the history of the world. And we had benefits for people who worked jobs. There wasn't a 401k. You have to jump in the market. There's pension plans and all this. And look at where we are now. And so we got to fight to get all that back. And we already talked about some of that. We can win. We absolutely can win this. Trump is not in great health. He's doing badly. The Epstein files are coming out. We're getting that 318th vote in the House, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on your Lisa Murkowski's in the Senate to do the same. I'm quite sure somebody's going to leak it. If not, already you see what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing. You think MTG is doing what she's doing because she suddenly stopped, having an obsession with Trump. She sees what Trump's numbers, and she's running from him because she doesn't want to be associated with them. So are certain other Republicans, because they see what's going on with his health, with Epstein, with all of this stuff. So there's division in their ranks. If we can all unite, if we can all message, if we can all fight, we can win. Absolutely. All right. And it was good that Wayne brought up Poland. There'll be a lot of damage we'll have to fix, but Poland fought. And they came back from it. 8 years they had this neo-fascist party in control. They took back over. Erdogan had number about 6 months, a year ago, of local elections where he got crushed everywhere. Clearly, it doesn't have to turn into Putin's Russia. We don't have to let it get there. But that means we can't let these billionaires basically take over this country and grab everything on the cheap because they've destroyed our economy. That should be the Democrats' message. Weird billionaires who are destroying our democracy, taking your rights, and taking your money out of your pocket. Because that's what's actually really happening. It's pretty simple. They're in league with Trump. Look at Jim here. I agree with Jim. Thank you, chat family, for your continued support. It is awesome you're here. I try to remind folks that Wayne's doing great work. We're trying our best here. This takes some effort. So super chats and super stickers are welcome on the way out. Don't make me do my Jerry Maguire. Even $1.99, even 99 cents. So I said, I try to get 5 of these to walk out of the room and be excited about. And you know what? It adds up, and we're able to make sure that we can support the people we can support. Our sound check fund, where we've given out a number of checks to folks who are, those who just need to buy cameras, need to buy lights to do the work they do. The folks who work with us, being able to pay them so we can grow. So, who is coming with me? As Jim Williams rightfully said, subscribe, please. But subscribe to Cliff's Edge. That's when I'm going to do it. Come on, folks. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? All I'm asking for 99 cents, $1.99, that kind of stuff. Small things, little things that will help support us, support this show, keep it going, and keep what we're doing going. Do I have anyone in the chat? If one of you did it first, I bet a couple other people would support us too. And I hate asking for stuff like this. I really do. But like, we don't have billionaires. Thank you, Lefty Gramps, who also subscribes over at Substack. So he is supporting us in a huge way. And he supports us here every time and gets it started. And again, thank you for saying good show. I try to make this clear to all of you. I don't ever ask for anybody if it's money you need for rent, if it's money you need for food or whatever, please don't give it to me. I don't want it. But for the other folks out there, Mr. Android coming through again too. Thank you, my friend. Lights, cameras, whatever. There you go. $2.22. I'll take it and love it. See what I mean? $2.22. You probably spend more than that on what? You probably spend, depending on which cities you're from, 2 to 3 times that on a latte. That's the kind of thing that we're just asking for, that helps us keep going. Some of you probably subscribe to the New York Times, God help you, or the Washington Post for $5, $6, $7 a month. We're not asking for that. Do we have anybody else here who wants to come in and help us along on this path before I bid you a fond farewell? It's only our democracy, folks. You know, not too much. All right. I was hoping we can get 3 more of you, but so be it. It's going to be a little bit more difficult this week. But thank you, Jim. Thank you, Lefty Gramps. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you to Mr. Android. I appreciate your guys, particularly your financial support. I appreciate you guys who have jumped in and helped us moderate. And I think we have reached the end of the program. So I hope you have a great Wednesday afternoon, evening. Thanks for joining us. And, as we say around here, as the sun sets slowly into the west, I bid you a fond farewell, folks.